All right, it's 6:03. Let's get started. I'll let people in as they come in. Thanks to everybody for being here. There's a big group of you. I appreciate you being part of this. I hope that today's informative. We're going to touch on a few things. I'm not going to sell you anything. I am going to offer you some. If you want somebody to come visit with you about what some of your options are, then we're happy to set that up for you. But more, this is just informational, and it's really just fun for me to visit with you about what it takes to sell property in today's market or any market, because there's a lot more goes into it, I think, than people truly understand. So let's get going. We're going to talk about a few things. There's a lot that goes into listing a property, and it's more than just listing it. Like, anybody can list a property, but I want to talk about the main things, the 3 Ps. They call it: pricing, preparation, and then promotion. And I would argue that in order to optimize your profit as a seller, you have to identify kind of what your motivations are, but then you've got to get it prepared. And it's similar to, like, this is a weird thing to say, but it's similar to dating, right? If you're dating and you're looking for a partner and all that stuff, like, you've got to look your best when you go out on the market, right? You probably all remember that at some point in your life. If you haven't gotten there yet, it's coming, but it's really similar to that. So we're going to talk about pricing. We're going to talk about the preparation. In fact, we'll spend most of our time talking about preparation, because that's where a lot of the work is done by homeowners before they get a property for sale. Okay. It's easy to kind of overthink that part of it also if you're a seller. So, and then we'll talk a little bit about the feedback loop, and then some of the negotiations and some of the issues that can come up there, and especially in today's market. And then we'll take some time to answer any questions you might have. So again, I appreciate you being here. Here we go. When we're talking about the seller profit optimization system, it's a lengthy word for, like, this is how we sell your home for the highest market value that we can in the least amount of time with minimal stress and worry for sellers, right? Everybody's worried about many things, but generally it's about what's the process, what's the price, and that could be, fees, commissions, the total price, how much money I'm going to put in my pocket so that a seller can move on and do what they need to do next. And then what do I need to do to get it ready? Okay. And in a market like this, you're going to see here in a minute, you kind of need to do a lot because you have a lot of competition on the market. Okay. Just a little glamour shot of a big group of us here. This is, I've been doing this business for a long time. We're really proud of our customer service and the information. We have a great group of people. This isn't everybody, but I just wanted I wanted you to see who we are and put some faces to names if you already kind of know who we are a little bit. Let's talk about what's going on in the real estate market right now. This is probably my favorite thing because it's the information you need to kind of guide your decision-making process. When you hire a real estate agent, or if you decide to do it yourself, however you want to go about it, you've got to have a thought partner working with you that understands the market and the cycles of the market and the timing of the market, and to help you position price and condition and everything perfectly so that your home sells, so that you can do whatever it is that you're motivated to do by selling your home. And a lot of people, that's, moving on to a different area, it's upsizing, it's downsizing, it's going to be close to parents or family or whatever it is. It doesn't even, whatever your reasons are your reasons. But right now, if you look at where it says you are here, you'll see that the market right now in Austin, this is the number of transactions per year. Now, this is all of the Austin area. It's 7 counties. It's a big piece. Real estate's a very microeconomic market, right? So, like, each neighborhood is not created the same, right? They're all a little bit different. So, and I'll show you in a minute how to really dial that down. But what you need to understand, or I think what's helpful to understand here, is that we're actually trending in Austin to having as many closings and transactions as we had 10 years ago. So this is the lowest number of homes that have sold in 10 years, maybe 11. We'll see. We'll see how the fourth quarter turns out. It's looking like it's going to be pretty tight, but I think you learn 2 things from that by looking at this chart. The first thing is that, wow, did the number of homes that sold really drop off when they raised the interest rates, right? That mattered significantly. But then also, if you look back at the 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and those few years there, you can see how the cycle goes. And you can see that it's a, 7 or 8 year kind of cycle when there's, major trauma in the economic system, which I would say we've gone through. And so if you were to kind of extrapolate what happened last time with what's going on right now, we should be along the bottom or close to it, as far as the price adjustments and the price reductions and the number of transactions that have sold. So we are in a quote unquote buyer's market, But as I'll show you in a second, you'll see that that's not necessarily the case for every neighborhood in Austin. It's the case for most of Austin, right? Everybody's prices have come down from the peak by about 20 to 30%. Okay. But by the way, the peak was 4 years ago. You'll see here when you start to get into timing of the market, we're going to talk about that these next two slides. You'll see that this year is pink, right? So this is the most homes. We almost got to 8,000 homes on the market in Austin this year, which is the most I've ever seen, right? In 27 years, it's the most I've ever seen. So it's a substantial amount of inventory, which means several things. Buyers have a lot of options. It means that buyers are slow to make decisions, and you'll see that in a minute. It means that sellers need to do a really good job to get their home ready for sale. And you've got to worry about two things really, because you can't change your location, but it's the condition of your house and it's the price that you put on it. We'll get into when we get into the preparation part. We're going to talk a lot about the debut, about when you bring when you bring your house to the market, like that is your big aha moment. It's the big reveal. All right. And if you're not paying attention to that, your house is not going to sell for what it needs to sell for. There's already a bunch of homes for sale. This year, we've learned just in the number of, homes and families and fans that we've helped out is that buyers are out there. They're paying attention. They're watching. They're looking on Zillow. They're looking on realtor.com. They're looking on our website. They're looking in MLS. They're talking to their agents. There are thousands of buyers out there watching the market, learning the things that they need to learn so that they can make an informed, educated decision. They're not always looking for a deal. They're looking for easy. And we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about what that means for you as we get going here. So I think what's interesting is you can see kind of the seasonality here of when homes hit the market. And you see right here in the first 20 weeks of the year, buyer activity. This is the number of homes going under contract. And you can see literally right after the new year, buyer activity kicks off. Now, if you're a seller and you're thinking about coming on the market, in my mind, if you wait until the 20th week, everybody else as a seller has jumped in at the same time. Okay. You can see right here, this is getting close to the peak of inventory. This is when most of the homes are hitting the market for the year. But you can see here that most of the buyer activity happens in leading up to the 20th week of the year. Okay. So do you want to be on the market at the peak when buyers are starting to, tie down their house and they're starting to fall off and everybody else is hitting the market? Or do you want to be on earlier than that when there's a lot of enthusiasm and momentum in the buyer psychology and what their offers that they're making? We get this question a lot, like we want to hit the summer market. The summer market does not exist in Austin. The summer market in Austin is blazing hot. Like it's too hot to go outside, right? So you want to do it earlier in the year when the buyers are active. And right now we hear it all the time. I want to wait until spring, all the time from buyers and sellers. Spring is earlier. It's late winter to hit the market. And that's perfect timing. It's perfect timing because you're going to beat the rush. You're going to beat your competition and you're going to catch buyers when they're in the mood to buy a house. And some areas of Austin, I'll show you in a second. In some areas of Austin, there's pretty limited inventory. So there's a lot of buyers looking in an area. And if you're the one that hits it and you've done the right things to make your house look really good, buyers will come in and you can still get multiple offers. Now, they don't go up by 10% or 20% like they did 4 or 5 years ago, but you can optimize your profit by pulling different levers in the offers that come in. And I'll get into that here in a second. Another thing to notice here on this slide is that if you look, there's an extra shaded area right here. This is another time that buyers get active again. And it's leading up, it's right before Thanksgiving and it ends generally about right now in the year. So if you're trying to time, like if selling, in 2 months is just not in your cards, there's another time of year that it makes sense too. Now it changes, it's, for everybody, right? But in general, there's another spurt of buyer activity in this Thanksgiving, fall or early winter timeframe. What's great about this time is this is when a lot of sellers if they didn't sell, they'll pull them off the market and there's usually a lot less competition for other sellers that need to sell at that time. So buyers are excited again and there's less competition on the market if you're trying to sell your house. Let me show you that. I went the wrong direction, guys. So you can see right here, the listings start to fade off here usually about July. What's interesting is that on the 1st and December 31st at midnight, about a third of the inventory expires off the market. So like literally in about a week, you can be one of the only homes in the neighborhood that's on the market catching all the buyers. The reason pricing is so important, well, obviously price matters for everybody. You can sell your house for any price. That's not true. A house there's always a buyer for a house. The less work you do on it, the less money it's going to sell for, period. Now, there's things you can do on your house to optimize the price that don't cost a lot of money. All right. And that's what you're here to learn today, I would imagine. That's what I like to learn. Value engineering, they call it. So in pricing, this is a sample of like just a spreadsheet of homes that are active or that are pending and closed. And this is what we use. Sold information is, we'll kind of work backwards here. Sold information, when you're looking at your neighborhood and you're looking at similar homes, homes that are similar to yours in size and age and, condition, things like that. The sold information shows you what buyers have paid for a house in recent history. And that's what appraisers will use. Pending homes that are that were on the market and they've just accepted a contract, that shows you what buyers, it shows you two things. It shows you how many buyers are in the neighborhood looking around. And it also shows you what they're seeing, what features and benefits they're willing to pay for a certain price. Okay. And the active, when you look at the market here, let me just switch it over to here. When you look at the greenhouses, right, those are the active ones, that shows you what your competition is. Now, I pulled these today. These are similarly priced homes in different parts of Austin. Orange is homes that are pending. Green is homes that are on the market actively for sale. And if you were to look at this, the one on the left here, and this is in Belterra, just out towards Dripping Springs a little bit, they've had several homes have gone under contract and there's just a few homes active. So when you see something like this with your agent or yourself, you're thinking, okay, there's good velocity here. There's a demand here that I can put my house on the market and I don't have to try to undercut other homes for sale, right? That are for sale. I can improve my property a little bit through staging or painting or cleaning or decluttering and the right photography and things like that. And I can put my home on the market. I might be able to raise the price or go in at what's for sale, what the average price is for homes that are selling. If I look on the one on the right, I'm thinking to myself, gosh, I'm in a price war with other homes that are on the market. Okay. So this is where it matters about where your home is and dialing in on your neighborhood, what's going on in your neighborhood. What price do you want to aim for? And then what is it going to take to get my house for sale so that it can actually achieve that sales price? Then you'll start to do some math on, is it worth it or not? Is it easier for me just to sell it as is for a lower price? Or if I invest a little bit of money and get it ready for sale, will I be able to achieve a higher price? And in our system, we give you the three prices: the as is price, a little bit of work, and a lot of work, and what it would net to you based on if you were to do some of the work. All right. So this is what a net proceeds sheet looks like. And we ask you a lot of questions up front to make sure that we understand why you want to sell, what it means for you, when do you need to do it by, do you have the capacity to do any repairs or any maintenance items or any sometimes remodels, right? And then what it means for your bottom line. Okay. And I'm just showing you this so it gives you an idea of what one of these looks like. And you'll also see this again when offers come in so that you actually know how much money you're putting in your pocket at the end of the day. Okay. Okay. So the preparation, this is where, in my mind, this is where the most profit is either made or lost. All right. Because you get into some sellers, we have a lot of conversation with owners and sellers that look, here's my house. Here's the price I want. Just put it on the market and let's see what happens. And in a market, like you saw, like the one on the right, that's a really difficult challenge to put in front of somebody because there's so many houses on the market. And if you're selling an as-is property where the price doesn't match the market, you're going to have this unreasonable expectation. And then you're just going to be mad the whole time. Right. And the goal when you're selling your house, generally you have some kind of motivation to get on with your life. And if your agent or your thought partner or the person that you've hired to help you with this isn't telling you the truth about what's going on, then you're just delaying your life and you're losing money. The longer you're on the market, the less money you're going to get. Okay. So when you're thinking about, I want to bring my home on the market, you have to turn your home it goes from the house that you've lived in to now it's an asset. And I've got to make this asset as beautiful and as attractive and have as many features and benefits for the price as I can so that a buyer will want to buy it. And what we know about buyers is that they're looking for easy, right? They don't want to think about doing a bunch of stuff. They're already making a lot of decisions. So when they walk in your house, they want easy. Very few buyers can walk in and say, hey, I can do this, this, and this. Don't worry, I got it. A very experienced buyer will do that. Most buyers don't have the ability to do that. Okay. They're very emotional. And right now, buyers are afraid. They're afraid of making bad decisions. They're afraid of high interest rates. They're afraid of the monthly payments. They're afraid of, is this the right house for me or not? They want to make less decisions, not more. They want easy, right? That's why you've probably heard a million times, just paint everything as neutral as you can, because it simplifies the buying process for buyers, right? And the more time you spend on getting the property for sale, the more time you spend cleaning it and decluttering it and getting it ready for showings, the easier it is. All right. But your job when you're bringing your home to market, when you're bringing it up for sale, it's you have a challenge you have is, how do you stand out? What are you going to do to stand out? So let's find out. In our world, it's not, we don't just list a property. It's not just put a sign in the yard, take some pretty pictures and stick it on the MLS and just see what happens. That's not the way to do it right now, especially when you've got 15,000 homes on the market and it's your job to attract the buyers that you need to attract. So it's not just a listing. The preparation that you do and that we can do with you, if you so choose to go that route, and the marking that's done, you aim for a certain date and you have your debut. All right. You have it's your premiere. You're rolling out this beautiful house, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be 8,000 square feet. It could be 2,000 square feet. It's this beautiful house that I want this buyer to come by. And you tell this story, this beautiful story with pictures and descriptions describing the features and benefits, and you have a price that makes sense. 95% of buyers are online, right? You probably have done this yourself, where you're just online and you're looking through property. They all just kind of look the same. And then one either jumps off the page because it's beautiful, or one jumps off the page because it's like, holy moly, I can't believe they took pictures. There's people in this, right? Why didn't they clean that up? You probably have both like felt that before. The goal when you debut your property, when you launch your property for sale, is you want buyers to obsess over your property. You want them coming back to it over and over again, right? Because the first showing is online. 95% of the buyers are online. You've got to attract them. And the best way to do that is to get your house ready, make sure that the marketing team that you hired knows what they're doing and they can go tell the story. And there's some really fun tricks that you can do for that, which by the way, we do. All right. So the whole goal, right, and nowadays, because if everybody's online all the time, is that you want to dominate the feed. And in order to dominate the feed, you already know, because we've been talking about it, is that you've got to have beautiful pictures. But you got to do more than that, right? It's so you have a price, you're displaying the condition, right? You're showing off the condition, you're showing off the features and benefits of your price. You want to have, there's things you can do now where you have interactive floor plans. You can literally walk through a house, a virtual floor plan. You can walk through a house now, right? You have virtual tours, the high resolution virtual tours. You can do priority placement and search results. That's on Zillow. That's on Google. They just rolled that out, by the way, which is really exciting, right? You want your listing to not just be static. You want it to be immersive. Like you want buyers to generate some kind of positive feeling about getting off their couch, getting in their car and coming to see your house, right? You want them to be excited about it. Right, that's the whole goal. That's how you win in a market like this as a seller. Oh, and by the way, that's how you get a higher price. That's how emotional buyers pay more money when they're emotionally engaged in a house, when they're excited about seeing it. They're excited about seeing it online, and then they show up and the house either meets their expectations or it exceeds their expectations because of all the work that you've done to the house. All right. All the preparation that you put into it. Okay. This is just one of the things when I was talking about priority placement and search results. This is what it looks like in Zillow, right? You can do a showcase. And a showcase in Zillow, it's just something that we offer, I think, 1 out of 5% of the listings in Zillow, where there's like 150 million views a month. You can get the showcase. And the showcase is cool because there's a badge on it and you have the interactive floor plan and you have these beautiful pictures and this drone activity and this big video. And when you're looking through a neighborhood that's got like 700 homes for sale, or, like this one's in San Marcos, there's 738 homes for sale down there. Ours is at the very top, right? It's at the very top. So do you think buyers spend more time looking at this one than they do anything else? Of course they do, right? So, and then you get into, and you can see right here, the showcase, it leads you through where you get to do a virtual tour through this floor plan. It's really cool. If you haven't messed with it yet, I highly recommend it. It's super cool. But it makes your listing in your house stickier. So it's just one more thing that you can hire, or you can, get with us or a brokerage that does this, but it makes your house stand out, right? And when they're spending time going through and like figuring out if they can live their life in your house and how they're going to navigate, do they like saltillo tile? Do they want a pool? Do they want a courtyard? Things like that. they get more excited about it. They're going to talk themselves into it, and they're going to show up for the open house. They're going to show up with their agent. They're going to come take a look at it and have a physical experience in your house. And then because you've done such a great job getting it ready for sale, they're going to make you an offer. That's how it works every time. Okay. So here's the list. Here's the checklist. And there's, 20 plus things in here that matter, 24. And this is, if I were to say there were a cheat sheet or a cheat code or a hack or anything like this, a seller just followed these things, their house would sell every time. And it would sell for more money than the other houses in the neighborhood. We talk about this a lot. How you prepare your house for sale is how you sell your house. Abraham Lincoln, I think, said, if it took me 6 hours to chop down a tree, if I had 6 hours to chop down a tree, I would spend 4 hours sharpening my axe. It's the same thing. It's the preparation that you put into it is where you're going to make your most money. So you focus on things like the outside, the inside, basic maintenance things. And then you aim for, as you're doing this with your agent, you build a plan around this, and you're managing the vendors to get in and out of there to get things ready. Or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, you just have your checklist of getting things done. You're aiming for getting it ready so that it when you roll it out for its premiere debut, it's Hollywood. You're rolling it out. You've taken all the pictures. You've done all the prep work. It looks like that from that moment forward until the deal's closed, right? Now, it's not easy if you live in your house and you're trying to sell your house at the same time, especially if you have pets, things like that. If you work from home, it's a challenge, right? But you learn when you get it ready for picture day, what you learn is like what it needs to look like for when there's a showing. And then you protect yourself for showings. Don't just show up in my driveway and say, I want to see your house. Like, you need time to get it ready. Put the coffee maker away, clean up the toys, put the pet beds away, put the mats up, things like that. Right. So you you train yourself on how to get it ready for sale, like how to get it ready for showings. Right. And we're going to go through these here in just a few minutes. This is, I wanted to put this picture in here because this is actually a virtually staged property. All right. And what's cool about this is on the before picture, it looks okay, but the after picture, what does it do? It takes the guesswork away for buyers, right? It makes it super simple to look at this and say, well, I want to do that, even though we added a fireplace over here. I want to go see this house. This looks like an amazing house. It looks easy. It looks comfortable. I can't wait to go see it. Now, the trick with AI staging, I'm just going to do this caveat in right here, is that if it looks like that online, that's what buyers are semi-expecting to see when they come see the house. So it cannot be dramatically different. Okay. I'm just to let you know, it cannot be dramatically different. And that's why preparing things the right way in the beginning and getting it ready for picture day will train you to how to get your house ready for sale if you're living in it. The idea is when a buyer walks through your house, they have to, you want them to stay emotionally engaged in your house. And that means the natural light, open the blinds and the curtains, let the light in. The light bulbs, this is actually a really important one. You want all the light bulbs in all the house to match. The best light bulb to get is one that turns on or burns at 2700 Kelvin, 270. It's a warm, inviting light. You ever been in a house that has those really bright, cool as ice, white lights? Like it hurts your eyeballs. You want the light bulbs to be that orange, that soft white 2700, and make them all that way. Okay. Take down personal photos and items. Look, my philosophy on that is that's intended for people that have like the wall of fame of their family, right? And all that stuff. You want to take that down, take down the college degrees, take all that stuff. It's okay to have a picture or two of your family in the house. I mean, you're personalizing it a little bit, right? Declutter throughout. We cannot stress this enough. Decluttering your house, I would almost tell you that everything that's small needs to go away. Things in corners, things on floors, anything on a countertop, except for maybe a red tea kettle and maybe a white flower vase. All everything else needs to go away. The point of that is that you're trying to open it up. You want those rooms to look as big as they can. Right? You want them to feel like, hey, I can live here. Wow, this is a really big space. Think of all the fun things that we can do in here. I showed a house down the street from me, gorgeous house, stunning house. They overstaged it. It had too much stuff in it. And so then the buyers were walking through and they're like, this feels kind of cramped. I'm like, man, this is like a 3,000 square foot living room. It's not that cramped. But they had overdone it, right? So you have to be really careful. Minimalistic actually matters. Okay. And there'll be things like just small chest of drawers or trunks or things like that in the corners. Get those out of there too. It really opens up a room. My rule of thumb on decluttering, if you were to work with us on this, is just send us a picture. If it's ever in doubt, take it out. Go put it in the garage somewhere and just go store it in the garage. Okay. You want every room to have a clear purpose. What's cool about now with AI staging is that the idea that you need to stage a house and spend the money on staging a house has gone down, because you can solve for what to do with this room virtually on people's phones. And then when they walk through a vacant room, they can pull it up and say, oh yeah, I can kind of feel how this is going to work. Right. So don't feel like you have to like rush into, we got to stage it. We got to stage it. That's not for everything. If there's a confusing room, or definitely higher end homes, that's something you want to visit about. But if there's a lot of competition on the market, it's something to consider. But you don't need to rush into staging a house right away. Okay, here's some more stuff. Dirt's a funny one. You don't want to see dirt. All right, because and I'm talking about this like cleaning your vents, the grills, your AC grills, the vents, the ceiling fans, the top of chandeliers, the top of nooks that are on the second story. The more clean you can make it, the more the buyer is going to feel like this owner took care of this house. I have less things to worry about. Okay. And it's like, I know it's a pain to get up there and clean some areas, but it's got to be done. The cleaner the house is, the easier and the more comfortable a buyer is going to feel in your house. Fix anything that's broken. Okay. And light bulbs is a really popular thing there. Broken chandeliers, vanity light bulbs, things like that. Fix that. Running toilets, fix that. You want the easy things to fix. Those are all easy things to fix. The easier the thing is to fix, fix it. Because a buyer, when they're walking through your house, they're thinking about stuff they got to do, and they're going to see like scuff marks and dirt and a broken thing here. And like you may know that it only costs $100 to fix all that stuff. But in their mind, it's just adding to things that they've got to deal with. And the list is going to get so long enough, instead of it being simple arithmetic, it turns into this exponential math problem for them. And it turns them off the house, even if it's just a simple little thing to do. So the more you take care of it up front, the easier it is to get sold. Okay. The easier it is for buyers to stay engaged in your house. And obviously you want them to be emotionally engaged in your house, because they'll pay you more money. Organize cabinets, countertops, closets. I'm not so concerned about cabinets, because you're trying to jam stuff in there if you're living at home, like coffee makers. That's usually a big one, because those things are so cantankerous. But like pantries, you want to organize pantries. Closets, absolutely organize closets. You want to color code your clothes if you can, right? Anything that's on the floor in the closet, take it out. It makes it feel like 10 times bigger when there's nothing on the floor. You want to thin the herd. Guys, it's okay to store stuff in a garage. Nobody cares. They literally open the door. Yep, it's a garage. They close it. They don't care how much stuff is in there. It's okay to move all the stuff out of your house and into the garage. By the way, if you're selling your house, you're probably moving. Not probably, you're definitely moving, right? So you have to pack this stuff up anyways. You might as well just go ahead and do it all now. Do as much as you can, right? But it shows that it's cared for. When you take good care of your house and you present somebody with a nice, clean piece of property, they're going to think, oh, this is really cared for. And on the outside, it's the same thing. So we'll talk about that. Okay. Curb appeal. Curb appeal is like, that's showing 1B, right? So they're online, they're looking at your house, they're getting excited, they're stalking it on, they're driving the neighborhood and all that stuff. They want to see, like, if you blow the leaves, if there's weeds, if there's trees hanging down, if there's acorns everywhere, if it's dirty, if the windows look dirty, if they look dark, right? Are there flowers, or are there plants that are squared away? Guy learned this lesson a long time. What did he call it? He called it like tight and right. You want everything just to look good, right? You want the bushes to look good. You want the yard to look good. You want the entry to be welcoming. It's really common in Texas I think there's swallows that like to perch up in the porches and make a big mess. You need to clean that up, right? Get rid of the wasp nest, straighten out your gutters, blow the leaves off the roof, power wash everything. Absolutely power wash your house. It doesn't cost that much money. Right. And then you want to keep it clean. You never know when somebody's going to drive by your house that wants to buy your house. You blow the leaves all the time, right? Just keep it looking nice and tidy, because it's inviting, right? It feels good when you walk up to a house that people have cared about the landscaping and they care about how it looks, right? So your curb appeal is really important. It's really important, right? It's probably the second most important. There's tidy up the landscaping, wash the windows inside and out. That's a big one that's pretty commonly overlooked, mostly because it's hard to find somebody to do that. We have somebody that will do it, and they charge a very reasonable price, but the cleaner the windows look, take the screens off, clean them, leave the screens off if you can. That lets more natural light come in, makes everything feel fresh and bright. Natural light is probably one of the secret cheat codes like that. You talk about natural light in a house, people get really excited. Okay. So you've done all this work because you're getting ready for picture day. Now, if you're a seller, we're getting close to the end here, guys. So that's good. If you're a seller, you've been working really hard, and if you're working with an agent that knows what they're doing, then it's kind of a smooth process because you took the time to schedule it out and get all the vendors in there, and you can knock some of this stuff out in like 2 days. It's not like Siberia, man. You're not there forever. You just get it ready and you just get a checklist and you knock the stuff out. And then you get it ready for picture day. Picture day is the day. It's like 2 or 3 days before a home goes on the market. That is like the best the house has ever looked. It's clean. It smells clean. Everything's put away. All the cat, dog hair, dirt, whatever, it's all gone, right? The vents are clean. The windows are washed. The yard is mowed. And now the photographer, the production crew, if you will, is going to come in and they're going to take pictures and they're going to do drone and they're going to do the virtual walkthrough and they're going to do the videos and the reels and the social media stuff. And these are the things, this is the marketing and the promotion stuff. This is where the magic happens. So we've worked really hard to get it ready, and now it's picture day. Picture day takes forever. All right. It takes almost the whole day. It's between 3 and sometimes up to 8 hours if you're doing twilight pictures for some of the higher end properties. And what's cool about it is it kind of memorializes like, this is how nice this house can look. And then as a seller, you have your benchmark for this is what it needs to look like for every showing, every open house, every inspection, every appraisal, and every final walkthrough until the money is in your pocket. All right. So it's very important that the work that you put into it, you recognize as a seller and as an owner that you have got to leave it in that condition or better every single time. Anytime somebody's coming by to look at your house, you have got to leave it in this condition. Critical, 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 right? You're just looking for one buyer to fall in love with your house. You just need one. And you want them to be amazed. The harder it is for them to access your house, the harder it is for them to see your house, the harder it is for them to see their life in your house, the longer you're going to sit on the market, right? It's just the way it is. So when it's picture day, that's also like this, like that's your time capsule day. This is what it's got to look like every single time somebody's coming through here. I know it's hard. If you live there, you got kids and cats and dogs and husbands and wives and all this other stuff. I know it's hard. It's got to be done, right? And it's everything. You want it to look almost like a museum. Yeah. So any questions on this so far? Well, I'll send you I call it the 20 plus things to get your house ready for sale. I'll send that to you. It's a nice little cheat sheet at the end of this. Something that we've done at the Bernie Real Estate Group is we put together a couple of other solutions that really help. We talked about how afraid buyers are right now, right? They're really afraid of making a bad decision. They're afraid they're spending too much money, right? There's a lot of fear around what they're doing. And so we removed what I think is the number one obstacle for buyers. We know there's a lot of buyers, right? Everyone's gotten used to the new normal of the new interest rates. Everyone, especially in the Austin area where there's a lot of high paying jobs around still. So, but they're scared of making a mistake. So we took that risk away. And so what we do now is we offer the Bernie buyer guarantee for anybody that buys one of our listings. If they don't love the house, for up to 18 months after they purchase it and they're owner occupied, they're just not flipping houses, right? Then we'll help them sell it. We'll help them sell it for free. Okay. If they don't love the house, if they feel like they've made a mistake or they got to go, we'll help them sell it for free. The result is that buyers are feeling more comfortable offering higher prices for homes because it comes with a safety net, right? There's an escape plan that they have. And we're the only company, I think, in Austin that does this, right? And we want our sellers, we came up with this because our sellers, the buyers are having a hard time coming to grips. So like they want to make an offer, but they're a little bit uncomfortable. They're not sure about things. So let's guarantee them, let's give them something to think about. And it's been really successful. So again, it helps buyers feel safe, offering higher prices for homes because it comes with this safety net. Right. So that's one thing that we do for our clients. Another thing that we've done is we partnered with to help with buyers' fears and buying houses and making offers and making higher priced offers for you guys is we went and started a mortgage company. And because these higher interest rates are starting to kill, they've been killing deals for 3 years now, 3.5 years. So we decided well, let's go ahead and fix that too. Let's come up with a solution where buyers and sellers can win. Right. And so with buyer's rate mortgage, we offer a lower rate, lower fees to buyers of our listings so that they can get into the house. They can feel more comfortable about their decision. If you think about it from a buyer, right, as a seller, you got to be thinking about, you got to put yourself in the buyer's shoes, right? And that's what all this preparation is all about. The next part of it is their budget. They got to come up with the down payment. They got to come up with loan closing costs if they're getting financing, right? They got to come up with moving. They got to buy a refrigerator, a washer and dryer, right? Big screen TV to fill the new wall they've got. They have all these expenses they got to pay. So the more we can help them on our services, save them money so they don't try to take it away from the sellers, the more we all win, right? So we started this, and this is an exclusive benefit that buyers and sellers get. And we also offer them a refinance credit later down the road. So when rates, if they ever do drop, we're there to help them out, right? So it's just, we're putting a little money in the pot too to help everybody kind of win here. All right. And then another thing that we do, and I didn't, I'm not trying to sell anything here, but when we're talking about the preparing your home for sale, we just rolled out this program because we have 27 years of working with vendors and we know what works and what doesn't work and what buyers want to pay for, what they value, what they don't value. And because we're really good at helping with the logistics on this, we have a program where we can manage the vendors for you. And then we can even help you finance some of the repairs so you don't pay for it till at closing. Okay. And the goal is just so that because we want you to get more money in your pocket. If it's something that doesn't make sense, then we'll have a conversation about that, obviously. But, the more we can help you make more money, the better things are for you. Right. And then, of course, you'll give us a screaming 5-star review online. But we just put this program together because we're running into people. It's like, it's the power washing, it's the cleaning, it's the, I got to do some paint and sheetrock repair, and I got to fix this appliance, and this dishwasher's leaking. There's all these things, and I don't have the time or the bandwidth to manage it all. We can do that for you too. Okay. In order to get started on this, you kind of get a little bit clear, and I'll give you an opportunity to reach out to me about this here in a second, is that we just have a consultation, right? We'll come by and take a look at the house. We'll know the market of your neighborhood, and then we'll take a look at it with you, and we look at the condition, right? We make some recommendations, and then if it sounds good, then we start scheduling things, and we get into the paperwork, and we decide like what's the right price for you, what can we aim for based on some of the recommendations that do we think we can achieve, and does it make sense for you, right? If it does make sense for you, and we've got to figure out how to make it happen, then we're here for that too. Okay. I don't want to belabor this, but I cannot stress to you how important it is to take care of your house before you go on the market. This is just another slide to remind you of doing the more you declutter, there's 3 basic things: paint, clean, declutter. If you were to do those things and maybe do some arranging of the furniture, that solves probably 80% of homes problems right now. Is that literally people will not take care of their houses enough for showings. And so they see it online and they show up, it doesn't look the same. Buyers are totally turned off. Right? They won't even spend 5 minutes in the house. You've got to pay attention to that stuff. So there's some extra things here: sprucing up the front porch, clean the patio. If your home's a little bit older or maybe has some deferred maintenance, it is a very good idea to go ahead and do an inspection before we put it on the market, so we can start knocking some things off the list. Because what happens, and I'll talk about this in a second. Actually, I'll just get to that right now. What happens is when buyers go under contract, you've negotiated some prices, right, and some terms. Then they're going to go do the inspection. They're going to come back and say, well, now I need you to do all this stuff. So it's like round 2 of this boxing match. And the more you take care of it up front, the less of the expectation of that being realistic for the buyers happens, right? So if your house is something, and we'll know when we walk up to it if it's something that we need to do, it's usually like HVAC, plumbing, electrical, roof, water penetrations, things like that. Sometimes, especially in Austin, the foundation. If there's things like that we need to address and get bids or ideas and get it cured up front, then we take care of that too. The easier you make it for buyers, the more money you're going to make. That's the tagline. The easier you make it for buyers, the more money you're going to put in your pocket. And we get into showtime. So, somehow these got switched around. But, for us, the more you promote a property, the wider the net you cast, and the more beautiful you make it look online, the higher chance you have of selling it. The more buyers get excited about, more excited buyers for your house means higher offers, shorter time on market, less frustration, less stress, more money, right? Those are all things that matter, right? Yes, say yes. Good. And this is just a lot of the stuff that we do. I'm not going to get into it too much. One thing that I love are open houses, and because you spent so much time getting your home ready for sale and making it look gorgeous and stunning, and you brought it out in this amazing debut, it's really fun to open it up to the public. Now, our open houses are a little bit different. We do a lot of advertising for them. We do a lot of signage for them. We do them for longer than 45 minutes or 2 hours that a lot of agents like to do. I think 4 or 5 hours is the right way to do it, because it allows buyers to come in and investigate the house in kind of a safe space, right? You're not on top of them, but they get to come kind of get a vibe for your house. We also then invite our agents and brokers to come take a look at the house. And we even invite people that are in our database of over 9,000 people that we've accumulated over the last 27 years that like to buy and sell houses. We let them know about your house coming on the market too. Sometimes that saves you money, by the way. And then, of course, touring agents, like, we love feedback. I love feedback. One of my favorite parts, one of them, probably one of the five main things to this, seller profit optimization system is that you get real-time data on where you are in pricing, what buyers are buying around you, why your home is selling or not selling, and what's the feedback? What are people saying about your house? So we call that the feedback loop. And that's actually, once your home has gone on the market, we enter into that. Okay, it's been debuted, premiered, we've done this amazing work. You've done this, you've worked really hard. We've got it all done. It looks gorgeous. People are looking at it online. Let's say there's a lot of views online, but maybe not that many showings, or only a couple people showed up to the open house, but we got some feedback from them about it. Then we can have conversations about what do we need to pivot in order to make this a more sellable property, get more buyers in here. It's not always price, by the way. It's not always price. Okay. But this is just the system and how we do it. We don't have daily calls all the time, but in the beginning, there's daily calls because there's a lot going on as you're being rolled out to the public. Okay. We do market reports. That's kind of it's a fun system that just keeps you updated on what's going on around you all the time. We weekly scheduled meetings so we can evaluate the market together with real-time information so we can make important decisions. Sometimes the decision is just be patient, by the way. We're not always hammering on price. I just want to be clear about that. The goal is to get you to sell your house for as much money as possible in the time frame that makes sense and the least amount of stress. All right. And the more you know, the better you feel. I think that was a commercial. Okay. But you always know where you stand in the market. It's important for you to be successful. Okay. So here's what happens when you get offers. This is another area in negotiations where sellers can optimize their profit. And if a single offer comes in, there's many different ways to handle it. But you remember that net sheet I showed you that had the 3 prices and the fees and things like that earlier in this you'll get one of those with every offer. Okay. And you talk about everything. Just so you know, this is important to know. All numbers, rates, and prices, those are negotiable. Okay. Just remember that. Everything is negotiable in offers. Okay. So you can tweak certain terms to optimize your profit, right? Sometimes it's timing that matters for you. You need a lease back, right? But you don't want to pay a lot of money for it, whatever it needs to be. Some repairs show up. You don't want to pay the money for it. There's different ways to handle that throughout the negotiations in the contract stage. Multiple offers, right? We still see multiple offers. Now, we don't see multiple offers where it's 100 grand over. Some properties do, where it's 100 grand, but by and large, like, those days have been long. They're long gone. We probably won't see them for another 6 years. That's a guess. But what you do is you'll be able to compare A to B based on every term and how they line up. A big piece of this, if there's financing, is what we call the loan officer. We talk to the agent, obviously, but we find out, like, what kind of employee and credit and cash savings and things like that do they have. They don't have to answer us. A lot of the time they will, because they want us to feel good about their buyer, right? But we ask those questions because we want you to make informed decisions with as many facts as possible. Okay. In the terms, everything's negotiable, right? So sometimes you make your money, the better you negotiate up front, the easier it is in the long term. And I'll show you that here in a second. Okay. So once you get an executed contract, it goes to the title company, it goes in escrow. I'm assuming most of you have sold homes before, you bought a home before, so you understand what this is. And the title company is the one that brings everything together. Okay. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. What's fun about title companies actually is that they'll tell you if there's any problems coming. We've been doing this long enough that we understand, like, if there's some flags coming, things that we need to jump on. If you have the right title partner, it's usually not a problem. If you have the wrong title partner, it could be a big problem. And we've run into this a few times in the last couple of years. And so we partner with Austin Title because we have an amazing relationship with them and they do a great job, right? They issue the title insurance policy, and the title insurance policy is important because it guarantees the buyer's rights to own the house without any fuss, right? It's actually pretty important. But for the seller, there's usually not a lot to do here. What's interesting, there's 4 main contingencies in a contract that cause the most heartburn for buyers and sellers and agents. The first one is the inspection period. We've talked about that. The more you address that up front, the easier that part goes. That's that part it's the first 7 or 10, sometimes 5 days of a contract where they can go in and they can, to some extent, try to renegotiate the deal that you just spent hours and hours negotiating with them, right? They're going to get an inspection. They're going to bring in professionals. They're going to do all these things to say, all right, well, I was going to buy your house for this, but now I want you to do these somewhere between 0 and 50 things in order for me to feel good about buying your house, right? So the more you address it up front, the less heartburn there is during the option period. The financing contingency overlaps the option period. The financing contingency overlaps the option period. That's not bad for Thursday afternoon, by the way. We're doing pretty good. What's cool about the financing contingency is that you can compress that time. It says here that 21 days is pretty typical. We've been able to push some of those down to like 10 days, depending on the loan program. So the unfortunate thing about the financing contingency is if it exists and we get like 2 or 3 or 4 weeks into this and they're still in that period, they don't get approved for their financing. They get their earnest money back and you're back on the market, right? After spending 20, up to 21 days, um, being under contract, losing other potential buyers. So this is this one's important, especially right now. So the more homework you do up front with the lender and with the buyer agent, I mean, honestly, it's not that hard to go stalk people online to figure out if they're, what kind of jobs they have and things like that. Like the more homework you do on your buyer, up front before you agree to the terms, the easier this part goes. The third one is HOA and property association. This is kind of a loophole one, actually, in my mind. And because it can take some time for homeowners associations to deliver those documents to a buyer. And then they have 3 days to terminate the deal and get their earnest money back. So we like to push this up as fast as we can. We're trying to get through all these contingencies as fast as we can so that our client, the seller, can feel good about packing up and going and making good offers on a home that they want to buy wherever they're moving, right? We want you to feel good about this. We try to jam as many of these contingencies, make them as short as possible so that you can get through it, right? Any questions on that? Oh, good. All right. And this is the big one. This one's been the big one for 6 years, the appraisal. And it's still a problem. However, what we're starting to see in Austin right now is that buyers are putting enough money down that banks are just they're using AI, right? Which means they're just getting online and looking at the assessed value and they're figuring out if it's going to appraise or not like that. Probably the last 3 or 4 closings that we just had, the bank just did a drive-by. They just did a drive-by assessment or a desk appraisal and it was fine. However, in appraisal, here's what happens in an appraisal if there's a problem. It usually doesn't happen until the middle of the contract, right? Later in the deal. And if for some reason you've gotten a buyer that has agreed to pay you way more than what everybody thinks and knows is the market value of the property, then you have to address that up front in the contract and say, fine, I'll let you pay me extra, but I don't want the appraisal to matter. All right. And you can have those conversations with most buyers. There are some buyers out there, though, that they will be adamant about the appraisal. And if it comes up short, then the seller has some decisions to make. There's they call it retraded, right? The price can get retraded. And that if, like, let's say that you agree to sell your home for 700 grand and it appraises for 600 grand, there's a $100,000 gap there that between the buyer and the seller, we have to figure out how to make it work. Okay. The more you address it up front, the less of a problem that is. So you've got the appraisal, the HOA documents, the financing contingency, and the inspection contingency. The more compact you can make those time frames, the sooner you can get through that, the better you can feel about packing up your stuff and moving. All right. And then it's time to hand over the keys. This one's, for some reason, keys and garage door openers always end up being this weird gymnastics experience at the end. We work really hard to figure out how to get them at the right spot at the right time. And it's always the last thing. You're moving out and all this, and you're oh, the keys, they're on my key ring in my car. I'm about to haul out of here. And here are the keys. So it's just nice. We recommend that as you're packing things up, you find manuals and utility bills and HOA park tag rings, things like that. Just put them in a drawer. And then it's a nice thing to have for the buyer when they walk in for the first time. Keep in mind, this comes up a lot if you're selling and you have a pool or a camera system or anything like that. All that equipment is supposed to stay with the house. All right. So just keep that in mind. Anything that's attached to the house or is related to the function of a pool or any other kind of systems like that, it's supposed to stay with the house. If you want to take it with you, you have to be very upfront about that in the beginning. That's just my reminder for you guys. All right. We did it. We got through this. These are just some of the amazing people. There's me. Leslie's director of growth. She's been with us for 5 years. And then Vincent runs the mortgage side of things. He's a very good ally to have for buyers and for sellers with the way we package things up. And then these are some of our primary partners. I love them. Believe it or not, our maid is our cleaning service is they're some of my favorite people because they do a great job. They charge a fair price. We have a long list of vendors, just so you know, that they must do a great job. They have to stand by their work. They got to charge a fair price and they got to answer the phone. Right? Those are my things. This is how you get on our vendor list because then I'm going to turn around. I'm going to vouch for them when they're in your house working on things. Okay. So it's a very good resource for you guys to have. And if you want us to come talk to you about your house and, kind of understand what your situation is and maybe what's coming up in the near future for you, we'd love to do it. This actually goes to my email. Just send me an email and we'll get some time scheduled with you. Are there any questions? That was a solid 59, and we covered a lot of ground, right? So if you want to reach out privately or confidentially, you could do that and just use the QR code to pop me an email. If you want to, I'll send you this also. If you have any questions about it, just reply back. I'm happy to share it with you. The selling your home part, there was a time when you just put a sign in the yard and you're going to be okay, right? That happens about once every 20 years. The rest of it, I cannot emphasize this enough, the more time you put into preparing your home for sale, it's like sharpening your chainsaw. The more time you spend doing that, the easier the process is. And if you get aligned with somebody who knows, has the experience to navigate all these other little landmines that we just talked about, the more confident you can feel about the deal actually going through. Okay. So if you're thinking about selling, we'd love to interview. We'd love to talk with you about it. Hopefully you got good information from this. If you have any suggestions or comments, just drop them to me. I love feedback as much as everybody. Sound good? Perfect. All right, everybody. Thanks for being here.